Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Daily MBA, where I'm going to keep teaching you how to implement solutions based on service design principles. Last time, we were exploring how research is crucial because it helps us challenge the assumptions that we have as service providers, and it also allows us to build empathy with users. We also learned about different mapping tools that I told you, like personas, jobs to be done, and service journey mapping. So if you didn't listen to my episode, make sure to listen to it and get this 3 done, because the goal over there was finding the right problem. And this is going to be a very important step in order to finding solutions. But in today's episode, we're going to go into the solution in space, exploring how we can generate and refine ideas through ideation, and how all of this is going to bring those ideas alive when we're doing prototyping or pretotyping. So briefly, we're passing from talking about improving something into actually building stuff and testing it. And this is going to be where you'll be doing the most amount of work, because you'll have to build, refine, test, refine, build, refine. It will involve a lot of creations, a lot of different methods, and different models. So let's start from the beginning. And this is going to be that after you identified the right problem, based on what we did on my previous episode, you are now going to start with ideation. And so ideation, I would say, is mostly known as brainstorming, but brainstorming isn't the correct word, because you don't want to just be throwing ideas out there like they're spaghetti into a wall and seeing which one sticks. That's not what you want to do. Ideation is going to be more of a systematic process in order to generate, develop, sort, and select ideas. And it's going to be mostly about moving from understanding the problem into creating a solution that aligns to this problem. And this, I'm underlining it because most of the times we love going into solutions. All the time we approach a problem and we already want to find 3 ways on how to fix it, but maybe it's not even tied to the original problem that we identified. And so that's why we were talking with users. That's where we identified the most important problem. Now we want to think of ideas that will directly address that problem. And this is going to be something hard because many organizations just jump into solutions without understanding the root cause. And so over here, one thing that you want to always have in mind is going to be the importance of divergent and convergent thinking. So this is going to belong to a theory called the double diamond concept, and it's basically that you're in a pattern of diverging, so creating options like yes, and you can do this and you can do this other thing, so kind of the diamond is opening up, but then you're going to start converging them again. And this changes from yes and into opening more options into yes but. So you have to start narrowing down, and both of these ones will be essential, and you have to repeat them over and over again. So divergent thinking, think of all of the options, narrow them down, then open again, narrow down, and only after doing this divergent and convergent thinking, you'll be able to generate and bring ideas that are going to be very useful and very realistic. Now, if we go into the ideation principles and methods, I'm going to only focus on 3, but there are many that you can use. The first one is going to be that you'll gather a big team of people. You will all start writing an idea only for 10 seconds. So this idea has to be very fast. And let's say if we have a restaurant, I could say adding a new plate into the menu. And then I will pass it on into my colleague after 10 seconds. My colleague will keep building on my previous idea, and I will start building on my other colleague's idea. So this is like a round table. You're passing on different ideas, and you're starting to build ideas. First one originally, but then you'll start building on your colleague's ideas. And most of the time, you'll find that the true insights are when you're building on top of someone else's idea and not on your own, because you need a lot of collaboration. And also you need to find a big pile of ideas, not just one killer idea, but many different ideas. Because as we'll see later, most of the solutions are most of the times a combination of different pieces, not just one single killer idea that someone came up with and had a light bulb. Always think quantity and diversity, and this exercise that I was telling you about, this round table where you're rotating ideas after 10 seconds, is going to be very, very important. The second ideation method is going to be kind of similar, but you're not building on someone else's idea. These ones are only going to be your own ideas, but you'll also have to do them fast. So ideally you should have a timer, and you're going to put, let's say, 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes, and every 10 seconds you're going to have to start writing a new idea. This depends on how many ideas you want, how many people on your team are collaborating, but you're going to have to start writing idea and another idea and another different ideas, and you'll see that after the first 3 you start running out of ideas, and you start suggesting sometimes crazy things or unrealistic things, but these things are where you're going to be most aligned into users' needs or maybe into the original problem. So just trying to force yourself to write 6 ideas in a minute, or even more if you want to extend it, and then you'll all compare the ideas that you had with your team. This is going to be a fun exercise, and it also pushes you to be more creative and think outside of the box, because many people say that they have many ideas, but when you have to write them under pressure with a timer, it starts becoming a little bit harder. And so those 2 are my favorite ones. The last and third method is called the idea or portfolio wall. And this one is the one that you see mostly on movies, or you see in all of these photos on Shutterstock about designers, where you have a big wall and you start pasting some ideas that you have into a wall. So what you want to do with this one is, again, have a lot of people in your team and maybe have some of the root problems on the top. So if I identified that one of my problems was that the process is too long, I will put that on the top, and then everyone should take post-its and write ideas under that problem. And then you have another column of problems, and you start writing ideas over there into another set of problems. So this is going to be a little bit more organized. It's not as hectic, but I would say if you have the time, you should try all 3. You never waste a good idea, and most of the times, what I was saying earlier, good ideas are going to come from collaboration, from building together. You're not going to find an idea just out of the blue that was the solution. This is a fact. No business problem will only have one particular solution. So the best way to do it is with building it with your teammates or your colleagues, and doing it in a collaborative setting where you can all have fun and enjoy while you're ideating. So after you encounter this, you're going to see that you'll have a big groan zone, we call it, and it's natural because you're like uncomfortable transition where teams are moving from idea generation into selection. And another thing that you'll see is that, of course, we're humans, we're biased, we tend to like our own ideas or the ones that look similar to our own ideas. So for selecting ideas, what I have done before in my classes is trying to vote for all of the ideas that you liked that aren't yours. And when you start voting for other ideas other than your own, you'll start seeing which one will get more votes. And this is going to give you insights, because also you're having a lot of different perspectives on the room, and they're not going to be as biased because they're not personal ideas. So this is going to be a good method for selection, but you'll see that even after selecting, you'll probably end up with a couple, or if not more, ideas. So what do you do then in order to decide which one you should proceed with? There's another framework that's called the how might we. And this how might we questions are going to be a systematic way to translate research insights into design challenges. And I'm going to explain how might we statements over here as I'm talking about them, but basically you want to now stop being in the user perspective and you're going to pass on into the company's perspective or the service provider perspective. And you want to think, how might we, as a service provider, help the user, which is going to be one of your personas. So it has to be specific to that persona. And then you'll say whichever their problem is and how your solution is addressing that problem. And then once you have that, this is going to be also another very fun part, which is going to be prototyping. And over here, again, it's fine if you still have many ideas. You just want to have clarity on a couple ideas, maybe 3 to 5, it's fine. But what you want to do is start putting all of those ideas into practice. And there are many ways to do this, especially today. People used to do prototyping by creating hand sketches, but I think this is not what you need to do right now. For prototyping, you can create either low fidelity ones that will be sketches, but now you can do them online with very easy to use tools. I'm going to send a prototyping link that I used for my classes, and it would just help me build online sketches and prototypes in minutes. So it's extremely useful. Or you can also do high fidelity prototypes, and these are going to be like mock-ups or functional things that will provide a more realistic experience and can also lead to better feedback. And nowadays, it's probably one of the easiest times to create prototypes with things like Lovable, because you can even create your own website, your own app in a couple of minutes just with prompts. So I'm also going to add the link into this tools for prototyping, because you should be doing prototypes, and once you have prototypes, again, you should go back to users. You should start testing them and getting feedback on them, asking users maybe what would this thing have to have in order for it to be the ideal service. How do you think you could improve it? Let users also be the ones that are helping you improve your own service. So take all of these prototypes, and after you get some feedback, you'll start to see that ideas start narrowing down. And then it's going to be the step for the last thing, which is going to be pretotyping. It's not prototyping, but pretotyping. And I already spoke about this concept in another of my episodes, but it comes from Alberto Savoia in his book that he wrote, The Right It. And basically, pretotyping is a shortened version of pretendotyping, because he says that prototypes are good. You're demonstrating what things are, and when you're putting it to the user and you say, oh, would you buy this product? Most of them will say, yes, I would, but when it comes to real life, they wouldn't. So what do you have to do? Do a pretotype where you can actually put this thing to work as if it was live. So you're no longer doing testing. What you need to do is find a way to get your own data and see if this prototype that now became a pretendotype is working, and you're pretending for it to be actually alive. So pretendotyping, or pretotyping as Alberto called it, will focus on quickly and cheaply validating the desirability of this idea by testing its core concept with potential users, and this is going to be very simple to do. So in this episode, I covered a lot of important things, and probably you should listen to it again if you're planning on doing it, because I walked you through all of these steps very, very fast, but in real life, it would take very long. And this is mostly what I was doing throughout the semester. So I was first doing ideation, then second, doing the selection, then third, framing it into how might we's, then fourth, doing prototyping, and fifth, doing pretotyping. So all of these things are going to be the key steps that you want to take into knowing if you are creating a solution that's actually valuable for users and their problems. If you liked my episode, please subscribe, and also tell me in the comments if you learned a lot of these things from my episode, because this motivates me and helps me tremendously. Also, give me a review and share this episode with your friends if you think that they can learn something useful from it, or if you know that they're interested in learning about MBA things. I'll see you next week to keep talking more about service design.